Before I came to China, Hotpot was actually one of the foods I was most nervous about. Someone even told me before my first trip, maybe you should skip the Hotpot, you don't want to get sick while you're there. And honestly, I listened to them because at that time, I had no idea what I was getting myself into. Was it the spice, the oil, the unfamiliar ingredients, the fact that everything was cooked together in one pot? I couldn't understand where the concern would come from, so I just avoided it altogether. But after several years of living around Chongqing and Sichuan provinces, two places famous for some of the most intense hot pot in all of China, Hotpot has gone from something I was afraid of to one of my most favorite meals. So today, I want to share what I wish I knew before trying Hotpot for the first time, how it works, what helped me enjoy it, and how this American learned to appreciate one of China's most beloved meals. And just to preface, my husband and I usually like to make Hotpot at home, but today I want to show what the eating out experience is like since it's very common in China. And if you want to see our homemade Hotpot version, I'll also link that video below. When many people outside of China think of Hotpot, they often imagine a big bubbling pot of spicy soup. But there are actually many different styles. Today we chose chuàn, which is a skewered hot pot, which is honestly one of the easiest versions for beginners. Everything is already portioned onto sticks so you can walk around, pick what you want, and start cooking. For the broth, there are usually many options like spicy, mushroom, tomato, and more. We chose a split hot pot of half spicy and half non-spicy. And if you're just trying Sichuan hot pot for the first time, I highly recommend this approach. The spicy side usually gets its flavor from the chili peppers, Sichuan peppercorns, and beef tallow or oil. That combination creates the famous spicy and numbing feeling in your mouth. But having a non-spicy side gives you a chance to slowly get used to it. Then comes one of my favorite parts, choosing your ingredients. You can pick the meat, seafood, vegetables, tofu, mushrooms, basically whatever you like. We usually start with things that take longer to cook like meat and tofu and finish with vegetables. And then you make your dipping sauce. This is where everyone becomes their own chef. Mine usually has garlic, cilantro, green onion, oyster sauce, black vinegar, and chili sauce. We then top it with sesame oil. But everyone is different, so you can really customize according to your preferences. And of course, part of the fun and sometimes the challenge of Hotpot is that you'll see ingredients you may have never tried before. And this time, I decided to try something I never imagined eating before moving to China: pig brain. Growing up in California, this was definitely not something I saw on the menus or at the dinner table. But one thing I've learned living here is that food is often connected to deeper cultural beliefs and preferences. In Chinese food culture, there's a funny saying which roughly translates to using something similar to nourish the same part of the body. It can sometimes be more of a joke and other times more of a belief for some people. But in our home, we take it lightheartedly. However, there are also many other reasons Chinese people enjoy eating pig brain, but I thought this was the most interesting one. Whether or not someone believes in those ideas, I think it's fascinating because it shows how differently cultures can view food. Something that seems unusual to me can have a completely different meaning to someone else who grew up with it. And honestly, the biggest question I had when trying pig brain was, how do you even eat this? Like, it was so soft, almost like a custard or pudding texture. I genuinely didn't know if I was supposed to chew it like meat or just let it melt in my mouth. And after trying it, I can say it was definitely a unique experience and actually quite delicious. But just to be clear, this isn't something I eat regularly. I don't suddenly crave pig brain every week, but I do enjoy it every once in a while. Now onto the part I wish someone had explained to me when I first came to China and tried Hotpot. Because my biggest challenge with Hotpot wasn't actually the spice. It was just not knowing what was normal or expected. I remember eating Hotpot and feeling okay during dinner, and then later that night my stomach would start feeling uncomfortable. Sometimes I wouldn't feel completely normal again until the next day or the next afternoon. And at first I wondered, is this because my body can't handle Chinese food? But over time, I realized I was not the only person who had to learn how their body responds to it. Hotpot is a very rich meal, spicy, oily, salty, and often eaten slowly over several hours. It wasn't that Hotpot was bad, I just had to learn what worked for me. Now, these are my top tips that help me enjoy it. Use separate chopsticks for raw and cooked meat. Make sure everything is fully cooked. Eat slowly, Hotpot is not a race. Let your food cool slightly before eating. Balance heavier foods with tofu and vegetables. Keep the dipping sauce lighter if the broth is already rich. Drink enough water before, during, and after. Try a few new ingredients at a time. Don't try every new ingredient at one point. And one small thing I learned the hard way, don't eat the Sichuan peppercorns themselves. They might look harmless, but your stomach will most likely disagree. Hotpot isn't just a meal. It is an actual experience. People don't go to Hotpot because they need to eat quickly for dinner. They actually go to sit together, to talk, to spend time. A typical Hotpot meal can easily last 1.5 to 3 hours or longer depending on your company. The food comes slowly, people keep adding ingredients, and the conversations continue. And I think that's what surprised me the most. In America, meals are often something that you fit into your schedule, but Hotpot encourages you to slow down. It creates time. And also a few practical notes. Your clothes will definitely smell like Hotpot afterwards. That's just part of the experience. So make sure not to wear something you love or something you don't mind getting the aromas on. And also don't wash your hair right before going unless you want your hair to smell like the broth too. When I first heard about Hotpot, I thought of it as something I needed to survive. Now it's something I actually look forward to because it's not just about the food. It's about sitting around a table, sharing ingredients, trying new things, and spending time with people you care about most. Living in China has taught me that sometimes the things that feel unfamiliar at first actually become the things you love the most. And I think that's one of my favorite parts of living here, realizing that there are so many different ways to experience something as simple as a meal. If you've never tried Hotpot before, I hope this gave you a little bit of confidence to give it a try in the future. And I'm curious in the comment section below if you have tried Hotpot or if there's something that's still a little bit intimidating about it. I'd really love to hear your thoughts. And if you enjoy seeing life in China through my eyes as an American living here, make sure to subscribe for more stories about food, culture, and the everyday things that change when you experience a different way of living. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.